On November 17th, we saw the release of The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which reveals the backstory of the main antagonist of the entire series, Coriolanus Snow, and makes us look at the previous movies from a new perspective. So I think it's time for us to go through the full story of The Hunger Games. It all starts in the distant future, when climate change led to a series of ecological disasters. But despite all that, the humanity quickly used up the few remaining resources, and because of that, an economic crisis occurred, followed by a world war. And as a result of this huge war, the planet's population has decreased greatly, and humanity has almost disappeared. But then, after some time, on the ruins of former Canada, United States and Mexico, a new country appeared, called Panem. Panem authorities divided the country into 13 districts, with a center of power in the capital, while the districts were focused on production or extraction of vital resources specific for each district. The resources were sent to the capital in exchange for protection by the capital's army or peacekeepers. The resources were distributed back to the districts, but the amounts were limited deliberately to create a dependency on the capital. And because of that, life in the districts was very poor, while the authorities in the capital were wasting wealth and resources on a luxurious life. So over the course of a few decades, the districts were growing more and more dissatisfied with the elite of Panem, who exploited the people. And finally, District 13, that specialized in the military industry and nuclear technology, rebelled against the capital, and uniting other districts around them, started a civil war known as the First Uprising. During the First Uprising, which lasted for 3 years, the districts blocked the capital's access to their resources, including electricity and food, and besieged the capital, also shelling it, which led to large casualties in the city. But after the army of rebels attempted to enter the capital, they became vulnerable to aviation and suffered heavy losses, but most importantly, the military advantage returned to the capital. So District 13, which at that moment had nuclear weapons, realized that mutual destruction is more and more imminent, because the capital had nuclear weapons as well. So to save their lives, as well as the humankind, District 13 initiated a secret peace treaty, under which they would abandon other districts, allowing the capital to win, in exchange of District 13 being separated from Panem, living independently, but in total secrecy. The capital agreed to this deal, and then the residents of District 13 hid in the underground shelters, while the capital performed carpet bombing of the area, to convince other districts that the entire region was destroyed in retaliation for the uprising. After this, the capital suppressed the remaining resistance and strongly limited the civil rights of the district's residents to prevent future uprisings. And for the same purpose, the Hunger Games were introduced. Those are annual battles of young representatives or tributes of each district in a special arena. The idea of the games belongs to the students of the Capital Academy, Crassus Snow and Casca Highbottom. There was a final project for the students to make up a punishment for one's enemies so extreme that they would never forget how bad they have wronged them. Casca Highbottom was drunk when he had an idea of the Hunger Games, but he was against using it. However, Crassus Snow submitted this idea while Highbottom was sleeping, and later the Hunger Games were implemented. Highbottom confronted his friend, but Snow told him that he should be grateful because he did him a favor. And because of this betrayal, Highbottom never forgave his friend, and also never forgave himself for giving this idea, and having blood of many tributes on his hands. The games became an annual tradition, so every year one male and one female tributes from 12 up to 18 years old were taken from each district by a lottery and forced to fight, until only one person out of 24 was alive, and this battle was broadcasted over the entire country. This winner, or victor, was given wealth and better conditions for them and their family. Soon there was a new rule, according to which every tribute was given a mentor, a person who is supposed to make sure that the tribute would put on a good show for the viewers, who would place bets and give donations, helping their chosen tribute stay alive longer. In the meantime, Crassus Snow was killed by the rebels, and his son, Coriolanus Snow, was attending the academy, hoping to become as big of a person as his father. Snow's family became quite poor after Crassus was killed and his wife died in childbirth when Coriolanus was only 5 years old, so at the academy he was trying to preserve his family's legacy. During the 10th games, he was made a mentor of Lucy Greybeard from District 12. Coriolanus saw this as an opportunity to make his family wealthy and powerful again, so he decided to help Lucy win the games at any cost. And by using questionable methods, such as trespassing, smuggling poison into the arena, and cheating multiple times, he made sure that Lucy would win. But even though Lucy became a winner, or a victor, and was sent back to 12, the evidence of cheating was found, and as a punishment, Coriolanus was exiled, also to District 12, as a peacekeeper. One of his friends, Sejanus Plinth, who was also a mentor, was exiled with Snow as well, for being too humane during the games. Later, in District 12, Snow met Lucy again, and for a little while everything was good. But then Coriolanus learned that his friend Sejanus actually helps rebels, so Coriolanus betrayed him by secretly recording his speech using a bird or a jabberjay and sending it back to the capital. And later, his lost friend Lucy figured out what he did, so she betrayed Coriolanus and escaped. But back at the academy, the authorities were quite impressed by Snow's performances during the games and how he turned his friend in using the birds, so just in time he was taken back to the capital. And as soon as he came back, he paid a visit to Casca Highbottom and poisoned him. Eventually, Snow achieved his dream and became the president of Panem. In the following decades, the Hunger Games became more and more popular, and soon the districts with more money and power, such as 1, 2, and 4, began to train their participants, or careers, who would volunteer for the games and almost certainly win. But other districts were quite poor and couldn't afford such trainings, especially District 12, which was the poorest and where the residents had to eat squirrels for dinner. For example, one of the residents, a girl named Katniss Everdeen, had to go to the forest with her friend Gale and hunt game with a bow. Because of that, she was good at surviving and had exceptional archery skills. But during the 74th Hunger Games, a sister of Katniss, Prim, who was 12 years old, was chosen as a tribute, and to save her life, Katniss volunteered instead of her. The male tribute was Peter Malark, the baker's kid. Both tributes were taken to the capital to prepare for the games and got their mentor, Hamish Abernathy, who was the victor of the 50th Games. Before entering the arena, the tributes are supposed to show their skills to get sponsors, and Katniss makes an unforgettable impression by shooting an arrow into an apple right next to the sponsors. Meanwhile, Peeta, to get sponsors, tells that he and Katniss are in love. And it works, so Katniss and Peeta have to continue with their spectacle, and thanks to their costume designer, Cinna, Katniss also gets extra points for a good dress, so by the beginning of the games, her score is the highest. During the games, Katniss tries not to kill other tributes, but simply hides and tries to survive, using her skills and magical supplies from sponsors. Meanwhile, the careers from Districts 1, 2, and 4 unite and begin killing their competitors, also trying to hunt Katniss by using Peeta's help. Eventually, they find her, but she manages to climb on a tree and sees a girl, Rue, from District 11, sitting on the next one. Rue reminds Katniss of her sister Prim, so they decide to team up. Katniss drops a wasp nest on the careers, and as it turns out, those are special wasps.
For those of you who don't know, tracker jackers are genetically engineered wasps whose venom causes searing pain, powerful hallucinations, and, in extreme cases, death.
And with Peeta's help, Katniss escapes, but because of being stung as well, she gets hallucinations and blacks out for a few days, but this time she is saved by Rue. Meanwhile, the careers got the weapons and supplies into a pile as a bait for other tributes, so Katniss and Rue decide to destroy it. They agree on a special signal that can be transferred by the birds, or mockingjays. So while Rue is making a distraction for the careers, Katniss blows up the pile of goodies, but unfortunately Rue gets killed, and Katniss, as a sign of her solidarity with District 11, raises a hand and salutes, which causes a small uprising in District 11, and Katniss herself becomes a symbol of solidarity between districts. Seeing how popular she is, Seneca Crane, the game maker, decides to use it and give viewers more hope by implementing a new rule according to which both tributes from the same district can win. However, Snow doesn't seem to like it, because he sees Katniss inspiring districts as a threat. Meanwhile, Katniss and Peeta team up and defeat other tributes, including the strongest career. But the game makers cancel the new rule for dramatic effect, and now again only one person can win. So Katniss suggests that they both eat the poison berries and leave the games without a winner at all. The game makers realized that this would be even worse, so they decided to announce two victors. But the game maker, Seneca Crane, was punished for this mistake and had to hang himself, or otherwise eat the poison berries.
Seneca decided to quit breathing. Is that her poison berries?
The victors go back to District 12, where Peeta tells Katniss that he loves her for real, but this feeling is not mutual. The results of the 74th Hunger Games lead to multiple uprisings in many districts, and Katniss and Peeta become celebrities because they are the first ones who could break the system. Meanwhile, Coriolanus Snow is worried by this, so he begins to suppress uprisings violently, and also threatens Katniss to get her family killed and District 12 destroyed in case if she continues to disobey. And in the meantime, the residents of District 13, led by its president, a woman named Alma Coin, are preparing a plan to overthrow the power of the capital. And for doing that, they are planning to use their agent in the capital, Plutarch Heavensbee. He becomes the new game maker, and secretly, together with the rebels, plans to make Katniss a symbol of the revolution. Meanwhile, the capital continues to intensify repression and sends new peacekeepers to District 12. The peacekeepers intimidate the locals and also beat Katniss's friend Gale. So she intervenes And this incident is caught on camera, which makes the protests and the uprisings even more intense. Then President Snow decides that it's time to neutralize Katniss, and together with Plutarch makes a new rule for the next 75th Hunger Games. According to this rule, the victors of the previous games should participate in the new ones, so Katniss and Peeta become tributes again. Meanwhile, Plutarch agrees with half of the tributes to use the games for starting a revolution. The costume designer, Cinna, makes a wedding dress for Katniss on demands of President Snow, but in reality Cinna is on the side of the rebels, so he adds an extra touch to the dress, so it can transform into a Mockingjay costume, and this creates a symbol for the residents of the districts, who will use it during the revolution. And because of that, Cinna gets killed right before the games. When the games begin, Katniss and Peeta decide to team up with other tributes, Finnick Odair, Joanna Mason, Beetee and Virus, and together they play against the Couriers. The arena has traps activating every hour, and every 12 hours one of the trees is struck by lightning. So the guys decide to lay a wire from this tree to the water in order to fry the enemies who will be near it. However, when the time comes for the next lightning, Katniss ties the wire to an arrow and shoots into the dome, which creates a short circuit, destroying the entire arena. Plutarch, Beetee, Finnick and Haymitch take the wounded Katniss from the arena, and meanwhile, District 13 raises a revolution against the capital. In response, the capital destroys the entire District 12 and also captures Joanna and Peeta. Fortunately, Gale manages to save Katniss's family and bring them to District 13, where Katniss herself is brought as well. They decide to use propaganda videos to inspire people to fight against the capital. They use Katniss as a symbol and the main actress in exchange for making an operation to save Peeta and Joanna. However, the videos are not very effective, because Katniss isn't good at playing on camera. So Haymitch suggests filming her in military conditions, since that's when Katniss is the most sincere. The capital also relies on propaganda using Peeta. They brainwash Peeta using hallucinogens and torture, and change his memories, so now he views Katniss as a threat.
Killing is not the answer. Everyone needs to lay down their weapons immediately.
So Peeta participates in videos where he tells the rebels to give up. And Katniss with the film crew goes to a military hospital in District 8, which is noticed by the capital, and they get attacked. Some of the aircrafts are shot down by Katniss, but they still manage to destroy the hospital full of people. And Katniss makes a furious speech that inspires people to fight.
If you think for 1 second that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourselves!
They also record a song in the ruins of District 12, and both videos are broadcasted by Beetee over the entire country. So people rebel even more and destroy the hydroelectric power station, which leaves the capital in the darkness. The capital shows Peeta again, but Beetee interferes and shows Katniss, and Peeta, after seeing it, for a brief moment gets his mind back, and warns Katniss that the capital is planning an attack on District 13, and thanks to that they have enough time to hide.
They're coming, Katniss. They're gonna kill everyone, and in District 13 you'll be dead by morning!
In return, the rebels fly to the capital, while the air defense system is offline, and rescue Peeta and Joanna. But Peeta's brain is still messed up, so when he sees Katniss he tries to kill her, but she gets saved. While the doctors are trying to fix Peeta, Katniss goes to District 2 to participate in seizing the military base. The rebels are planning to blow up the mountain and bury the militaries as well as civilians under the debris, but Katniss persuades them to keep an exit open to save the civilians. During the negotiations she gets shot, but gets saved by the armor. So now the rebels are ready to attack the capital, and President Snow decides to use technology and have fun with the enemies, so he floods the city with traps intended to be used in the Hunger Games. Meanwhile, Katniss refuses to record any more videos, and joins the military squad to attack the capital. On their way, they are met by Alma Coin's people, who bring Peeta, who is still dangerous. So Katniss begins to suspect that Alma Coin, the president of the rebels, is trying to get rid of her because she cannot be controlled anymore. Unfortunately, the military squad falls into a trap, and the commander dies, but during his last moments he makes Katniss the new commander and tells her that she shouldn't trust Alma Coin. The squad gets trapped again, but they escape in the tunnels, where they get attacked by monsters, and Finnick Odair gets killed. On the next day, the capital invites the residents into the palace as an evacuation, but in fact, the president simply wants to use them as a shield. Gale and Katniss decide to infiltrate the crowd and sneak into the palace, but suddenly the bombs are dropped on the civilians, and lots of people die, including Prim, the sister of Katniss, who was there as a medic. And because of this attack, that apparently was made by President Snow, he loses his last allies and gets arrested, and Alma Coin assigns herself as the new president of Panem. But when Katniss has a talk with Coriolanus Snow, it turns out that the attack was initiated by Alma Coin to frame Snow. And besides, she has a bright idea to make a new version of the Hunger Games, this time with the children of the capital's elite. So Katniss can see that Alma Coin is not any better than Snow, so she decides to take her out. During Snow's execution, Katniss, who is supposed to shoot him with an arrow, shoots Alma Coin instead, and Coriolanus Snow is still killed by the crowd. Katniss gets arrested, but then Plutarch releases her back to District 12. Peter's brain gets fixed in the hospital, and he returns to District 12 as well. He and Katniss start a family, and have kids, and finally have a peaceful life in their home district, away from the capital and the bad memories. This brings us to the end of the story. I would appreciate if you decide to leave a like under this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.